Hey guys, Kevin from FT86SpeedFactory. We're going to be working on our black BRZ today. If you've been following this build, you know that we are on some RC springs right now, but we want to run some wider wheels, so I'm going to be installing a set of Tein Basis Coilovers. These are going to be Tein's entry-level coilover system that keeps everything relatively inexpensive, but you still get that stiffer suspension setup and that height adjustability. These are powder coated and have a special coating on them to keep them durable and resistant to the elements. They're designed to work with the stock top hats, so those transfer right over. These spring rates are going to be 280 pounds per inch in the front and 340 in the rear, so it's definitely a step up from the stock suspension. You're going to get rid of some of that body roll, get a more aggressive stance, and gain the ability to run wider wheels. I know you guys are sick and tired of seeing those stock wheels on the car, so let's jump right in and see what we got to do to get the suspension installed. We're going to start off in the front here. Obviously, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your car up in the air and get the wheels off. Once the wheels are off, we have access to everything we need to get the old suspension off and get your new coilovers installed. We're going to want to start off by removing the ABS and brake line off of the strut and moving them out of the way. The ABS line is just held in by clips, which you can pull out. And then the brake line is held in with a 12mm bolt. Once those lines are out of the way, we can move on to the 17mm nut that's holding the Endlink to the strut. Now you're not going to be able to fully remove the Endlink just yet, but once we loosen everything else up, you should be able to pull that out. Once that Endlink nut is removed, we can move on to the two 19mm bolts and nuts that are holding the hub to the strut. Once the hub is released from the strut, we can go up top and remove the remaining three 12mm bolts that are holding the strut to the chassis. Once those are removed, we'll be able to pull the struts off the car. Again, you want to make sure when you take these off that the brake line and ABS line are out of the way so those don't get damaged. There we go. Now, as I mentioned before, our new Tein Basis coilovers are designed to work with these stock top hats. So to remove the top hats from the stock struts, you're going to need to remove the cover up top here, and there is a 17mm nut that's holding the top hat in place. Now, you may want to use spring compressors when you're doing this just for safety reasons, but I know since I installed these springs that these aren't under much pressure, so I'm just going to go ahead and uninstall the top hat. There we go. Now, before you install your top hat onto your new suspension, you want to make sure everything is pre-installed on your coilover, the dust boot, the upper seat, and the collar. Once those are installed, you can place your top hat into place and take the included nut and thread that on. And you're going to torque this down to 40 foot-pounds. Once you have your top hat installed, we can get your new coilovers installed on the car. With your top hat installed on your new coilovers, you can get this into place and get all the bolts reinstalled and torqued down. You want to start off with the Endlink first, and then you can move up top to the top hat, and then to the hub. I have the top hat bolts and the Endlink bolts tightened down already. For the hub, you're going to want to use a jack to assist you to get it back into position. Now, this is also the perfect time if you want to install some camber bolts to add some negative camber to the front. We're going to be running some SPC camber bolts. I'm going to go ahead and install those right now. And then once you get those tightened down, you can reinstall the brake and ABS line. Now the rear is a little bit different, a bit easier. All we have to do is remove 3 nuts on the lower control arm. These 2 are 17mm nuts and the Endlink nut is a 14mm. We go ahead and remove those. Once you have those nuts and bolts removed, the lower control arm can swing down. And then we can go up top inside the trunk and release the shock. Once those 3 bolts are removed from the bottom and the lower control arm is out of the way, we can go up top here. There are 2 14mm bolts that are holding in the shock. Go ahead and remove those and the shock can drop out from under. You're going to do the same thing in the rear by transferring over the shock mount. The only difference is it is a 14mm nut instead of a 17. Once you get that shock mount installed, you can get this back into place and then get those 2 14mm nuts reinstalled. Then we can go down here and get the lower control arm back in place. Once you get your rear coilovers installed, all that's left to do is make sure everything's torqued down to spec. I'll leave all that information down in the description. Then take your spanner tools that are provided and set the height of your coilovers, and then reinstall your wheels or install your new wheels, and you're set. Alright, well there we go guys. If you're looking for an inexpensive way to get a decent drop on your car and a little bit more performance, the Tein Basis Coilovers will set you up perfectly. If you want to pick up a set for yourself, go ahead and click on the top right hand corner of the video. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to email us, sales@FT86SpeedFactory.com, or give us a ring, 888-885-2002. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on your FRS, BRZ, or GT86.